Hello, my friends. We are back at full strength. Actually, that's probably debatable, but it's Dave, it's Brandon, and today we're going to talk to you about a handful of different things. A Locked On Twins exclusive scoop from a few days ago, some rule changes, and Dave's got some stuff on his mind. So we will get to that here on Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again and welcome back. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that fun stuff to our friends from Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And back, my son has returned. Probably not son because the math wouldn't work. But Mr. Dave Brown, how we doing?
Yeah, that would be some inside out math there. Brandon, we're doing fine as we can. I think we're as ready as we'll be for Christmas because we both have small children.
Yep. So it's an ever evolving process, which is fun. Both of us under the weather over the last week. So good to be back at full strength. Sorry about gaps in the show, although we did have a fun pop-up guest, our friend Aiden at MVP Prelip or MV Prelip on Twitter. So Dave, you had a capable pinch hitter, but
Good.
Yeah. So thanks everyone though for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, there we go. I'll give you a nice little wave here. And of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. Love to have you as an interactive part of the show. Thumbs up in the comments, FTL Nova Kid, and otherwise thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Dave Brown, have you seen the Locked On Twins / Brandon Warren exclusive news coming out of the Twin Cities in their front office?
Tell me about it, Brandon.
Well, so Rob Antony is out. His contract will expire at the end of the month, and we broke that over the last week or so, late last week. What I want to ask you is, so 35 years in the organization. I believe he started as I don't know if he started as a ticket taker and then moved into the PR department and then out to front office. So it was some kind of meteoric rise. And my question to you, Dave Brown, is could you put into context how rare it is for those kind of rises in the game and for 35 years with the same organization?
That is a classic, tale that people get like Netflix documentaries made about them kind of thing. It's just amazing that that's really homegrown. We talk about players, but executives coming up from I don't want to say menial tasks because that sounds demeaning, but from doing the very little things, the littlest things, but things that need to get done for an organization and building your way up. 3.5 decades. It's just incredible, an incredible life, and it's for anybody to be at any job for that long is amazing. To be at a job in baseball, or journalism, very just not something you see a lot, and that's a heck of a career.
Yeah, and I think he's best known for. I think he was technically the number 3 in command here behind Falvey and Levine. I don't know how true that was. He was a holdover though from the Terry Ryan regime, and when you speak of continuity, the Twins come to mind, Terry Ryan comes to mind. And so Rob filled in for Terry after Terry was let go, but before the Twins moved on to the current Brain Trust. And one of my favorite stories was when the Twins had Eduardo Nunez as their all-star representative. And I remember Rob Antony telling me this story because Rob traded for him that I think it was at the deadline. But anyway, he said that Eduardo was just so happy to get an opportunity that he thanked him nonstop. And I think in a way it was probably good for him to get away from all those expectations of being the replacement for Derek Jeter.
Right.
But that was just one of my favorite stories from Rob. Not a big forward facing guy, although if you knew where to look for him, you could definitely see him at press conferences and stuff.
Right.
But 35 years. What an incredible run. And happy trails to one of the nicest guys I've ever run across in baseball.
I'm sure he is. He's I hadn't had a chance to met him in passing before, but haven't had a chance to sit down with him very long. But Terry Ryan was a guy who was, he was a straight shooter, seemed like a good guy.
Extremely.
And I'm not surprised that that he would be involved in having Rob around for so long. It makes sense, the ways that you describe Rob, and it's a human business. Your story about Nunez, and it's the same thing for the people behind the scenes, the people who make the teams go. They're people first, and it's he's a good guy, and hopefully, I don't know if he's moving on to bigger and better things, but hopefully he's going to be okay.
Well, and one of my favorite Terry Ryan things is that he texts me every year on my birthday, which is just, again, uncommon behavior from people in that position. I mean, you go back to getting to talk to those guys before every single game as a practice. Like, Terry would literally sit at a table with us at 6:30 for a 7:10 game. We'd have dinner, ice cream, whatever, and just talk shop. And I mean, I just had such invaluable experience, and the people who have come out of that front office have done some great things, both as humans and in the game of baseball. But anyway, moving forward, Joe Mauer trending fairly well in balloting. I believe it was 75%, which is the threshold to clear, until I think Janie McCauley of, I think it was AP Oakland, put Mauer on her ballot that just came out as we were getting ready to record. So he is over 75% right now. Adrian Beltre, almost unanimous. What are you thinking so far of this? I know you had some thoughts that I wanted to let you get out.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because I sort of braced myself for the strong-willed anti-Mauer forces in the world, but I'm surprised that he's doing so well. It's only 10% or so of the people roughly who are going to vote.
And 10% of the precincts are reporting.
That's true.
We're not ready to call it.
Has MSNBC called it for Al Gore yet? I don't know, but so it's a little
times.
Let's not get the cart before the horse, or even behind it yet. Let's not hitch it up. But it's encouraging to me that Mauer as a first timer is getting a good response. I didn't necessarily expect him to get elected this year. I've kind of thought that it's going to happen someday. I think it should happen. Jay Jaffe had a nice article at Fangraphs about how the baseball writers are very stringent, conservative when it comes to electing catchers, and especially first ballot catchers. It just hardly ever happens. Name a catcher like Johnny Bench. There's one. Was Pudge Rodriguez the first ballot? He might have been, but I mean, even if
between
those two guys, I don't think there was anybody. So
yeah, if you're splitting hairs on two guys, Yogi Berra back in the day, maybe, but even back then they didn't have unanimous for some of the legends. So I think you're probably onto something, that it's not usually a one and done for these guys in the good sense.
It's encouraging. I think I've made myself clear about Mauer. I know his career was short. His catching, the catching part of it was short relatively, but he still makes the cutoff for the Hall of Fame. It's he's got some counting number issues. He doesn't have a lot of time behind the plate compared to other players as far as innings caught and all that. Okay, so Joe Mauer isn't one of the 5 best catchers of all time, but he's one of the 15 or 20 or whatever it is, however many are in the Hall of Fame. So, cut him some slack there, and hopefully other people will see that he's getting votes. That's one of the things that I like about Mr. Tibbs putting the votes out there and getting them on Twitter. People are seeing who's voting for who, that people are getting votes. And maybe it will be like, hey, I don't have to be afraid to vote for Joe Mauer. I don't know why you would be afraid to, but hopefully it will encourage other people to do so if they're on the fence. So, and it's interesting to me too, because Billy Wagner is hanging around 70% or so. It's roughly what he got last year. And Wagner had a very similar career to Joe Nathan, Twins closer for a good portion of the 21st century. And Nathan was a guy who fell off the ballot after the first year. And I talked to him once. I did a story. I don't remember who it was for, Pioneer Press or MLB.com or something. And he's sort of like, I mean, it hurt his feelings. And he's like, well, what's up with that? And people are, they get funny about who they look at a player and they're like, well, no, that's definitely not a Hall of Famer. And you can tell that they didn't necessarily look at all the stats. And I think Joe Nathan is a guy sort of like Wagner, maybe not as good as Billy Wagner, but kind of in that sphere. If Billy Wagner can get into the Hall of Fame someday, when Joe Nathan is probably 79, there'll be a veterans committee looking at guy. Well, we don't have any more. We need more closers or whatever, and maybe he'll get into the Hall of Fame. I think Billy Wagner is a way that could happen. So I saw that and thought of Joe Nathan.
Before we go to break, do you know the major league player who is exactly 1 day older than Joe Mauer?
And Joe Mauer.
I've tweeted this. I've tweeted this many times, so you should unmute me. Miguel Cabrera is exactly 1 day older than Joe Mauer.
How about that? I hadn't noticed that, Brandon. I'm sorry. That's a great factoid.
1983. All right. Let's take a quick second. We'll talk about our friends at FanDuel. When we come back, some pitch clock changes, some rule changes coming up here. A few players on the move, even a couple minor league deals for your Minnesota Twins. But first, a word from FanDuel. And our friends at FanDuel want you to know that as the weather gets colder, and it's actually getting warmer here in the Twin Cities. It's 45, looking like 53 tomorrow, but this isn't locked on weather. As the weather gets colder, in theory, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. You got spreads, overs and unders, player props, you name it, they have it. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. To reiterate, that's $150 if your team wins. Bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. So visit, again, FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. All right, Dave, we're running it back here with the bullpen. And one of the things that came out while you and I were convalescing was that MLB announced 4 new rule changes for the 2024 season, including reducing the pitch clock from 20 to 18 seconds. The league claims that pitchers delivered a pitch to the plate with 7.8 seconds remaining on average. So cutting off 2 seconds will have no meaningful impact. The other rule changes seem equally unnecessary. That's the editorial from, I'm still going to call them Roto World, but it's NBC Sports. Also, let's see. I'm trying to look at any of the other ones. There's going to be a spring breakout minor league showcase that should be good, but there's a lot of people not loving this change. There's also 4 mound visits instead of 5. Running lane to first base widened onto the grass, and if a pitcher comes out to warm up before an inning, they have to face 1 batter. The conspiracy theorists, or at least the people who are generally ticked off at Rob Manfred, see that he was given an inch and he's trying to take a mile with these changes to further shorten games. What is your initial inclination when you hear all of those changes? Because obviously, I think the pitch clock one's going to be the one that kind of garners the most attention. The base path one may loom large in some random game, because it seems to always be an umpire judgment call that blows up a huge game. But in other words, it's some small tweaks, but I think this one kind of rankles me the most. The pitch clock one. I begrudgingly accepted what it did to the game in 2023. In fact, maybe not even begrudgingly, because it actually, it kept games moving. But I don't know. I just don't think we got to keep pushing these buttons just to see what happens.
To save a few seconds. I mean,
yeah.
What kind of a difference in that way is it going to make? There's one issue about the whole pitch clock thing that baseball seems to be ignoring. And it might not even be a real thing, but I think it might be. Some players have worried about it. And that is injuries as a result of loading up so fast and going back and pitching again.
Recovery time between pitches.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, and the players certainly, even before they put the changes in last year, people wondered, well, could that be a thing where there's not enough recovery time between pitches and you're risking injury and all that? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's like specific data, but there were more injuries last year. And I don't know if that's just because of the pitch clock or what. But, they talk about this competition committee, and there's only a portion of it that is made up of players. So it's like they objected to it. Tony Clark put out a press release saying, we don't like this. But I don't know how the players get to be in the minority on the competition committee since they're the ones who are competing.
Competition. Yeah.
So I think, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't know what the extra microseconds are going to do as far as shortening the games, if that's going to be, but I do worry that we're taxing the pitchers in a way that is unsafe. And, we're not, it doesn't seem like we're having any less, you look at Ohtani and all that stuff, and we don't have any fewer injuries than we did before. So I worry about that. That's my big thing. I kind of want to see the runner's lane deal to see exactly what that looks like as far as widening it onto the grass. I don't know what does that mean, like spray paint? What does that mean, widening? So more dirt.
Yeah.
Is the path to first going to look funny now? But so we'll see about that. And some of these changes, like I've said, it's you got to kind of see them and in practice before you can really develop an opinion. But I worry that the extra, or the not extra time, but the opposite of extra time is going to lead to more injuries.
Did you warm up to any of the changes last year, and how long did it take you?
That's a good question. I was, I felt like, I'm a baseball fan. I'll kind of take the game as it is, or take whatever they give me. I didn't mind it that much. Mm-hmm. It was nice to see, it was like, wow, the game really is quicker. You can't sort of watch a game as background noise if you're not like covering it or whatever, if you just have it on, because you'll like miss stuff. It's like, well, there's less time between the bats. And so it took me a while to get used to that as a fan, and it just as a consumer of the product. And I hate that phrase, but so it took me a few weeks to but from that standpoint, I like that the games tend not to last 4 hours anymore. I think that's okay. But I worry about the players sometimes. And I think about whenever I see pitch clock stuff and I see pitchers get hurt, I wonder, well, did that have anything to do with it? So we'll see what these changes continue to do to the pitching staffs.
Well, it's good. Not only their mothers should worry about them. So I think they probably appreciate it. A couple of minor league signings for the Twins. One a few days ago, Nico Goodrum, who was actually drafted by the Twins in second or third round about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then AJ Alexy, the Twins traded for. It was a minor league pitcher named Christian Jimenez. And then they ended up DFAing him, losing him on waivers. People were obviously up in arms. I'm curious to see, Alexi did not pitch in the big leagues this year, but 94 touches 95, 96 with his fastball, throws a slider, kind of feels like the quintessential Derek Falvey and Thad Levine reclamation project. We've seen, he's not exactly Brock Stewart, but they've had some other guys pop up as well. And I think Goodrum, the one thing to not sleep on, he hasn't really carved out a huge big league role outside of Detroit. He was a fairly regular player in Detroit. Yeah. As I recall, he hits lefties, which could help him make the Twins. Mm-hmm. Again, I want to introduce you to what happens every offseason. The Twins make a minor league signing, and Twins fans are like, is this the starting shortstop? Is this the starting third baseman? It happened with Tim Beckham a couple years ago. Like, I'm not kidding you. Tim Beckham, is this the starting shortstop? No, Carlos Correa was the starting. Wow. Starting shortstop. Boy,
watch that faux pas.
Yeah. So the difference is that the Twins are pretty flush with infielders, so it's not really happening this year. But this would be the guy that they would say, is this the new third baseman? Is this guy going to DH? And so it'll be nice to have him around. He's 31. Not much big league success outside of Detroit, like I said. But just a couple guys where they're actually Twins actually doing something, still not spending any money, but at least doing something.
Right. Well, I'm not sure what the St. Paul roster looks like either, but you always have to think about those kinds of things when a Nico Goodrum is added. But, last year, the Twins had some, I don't want to call it good luck because, it sounds fleeting or kind of dismissive, but they brought in some guys kind of like Nico Goodrum, Solano and so forth. And, it takes a village to get through 162 games. It's you never know who you're going to need. So, this is a guy that didn't bear like a ton of fruit with the Tigers, but showed some things from time to time. And we give Falvey and Levine a benefit of the doubt on players like this just because their recent record has been so good. So we'll see if this is a good depth piece for the organization or not. And you were joking about how, is this the new shortstop? Or people probably said that about Solano. Is he the new first baseman? No, you can't. Well, he did turn out to be kind of the new first baseman. So every once in a while, these guys are needed and they come through, and it's a kind of a fun thing to watch at spring training. So I'm hyped for that.
303, 369, 447 career against lefties. So that
there you go.
Is a positive.
Good scouting.
That's really, really good. Played in Korea last year with Lotte, if I'm saying that correctly. Lotte, it's not the coffee, I don't think. Slash 295, 373, 387.
Marines, is that the thing?
I think you're right. Yep, I think you're right. 0 home runs, which was a curiosity, but he also did spend a little bit of time with the Woo Sox. I don't know if that's Worcestershire. I don't know. I think it's Worcester. Yes, but he hit 280 with a 448 on base and a 440 slugging in 65 games with the Woo Sox. 50 games, no homers, but a decent slash. I don't know. I'm not trying to sound the alarms, but I could see him, kind of doing the Willie Castro thing maybe this year. Obviously he's older, but he's a former Tiger, and I think that goes a long way. I'm kidding. We'll see what happens.
Well, it couldn't hurt. I mean, the Tiger. Hey, JD Martinez was that was a former Astro, wasn't it? I kind of got mixed up there, but I was gonna say, well, maybe it's a good thing to be former of the Tigers, but they're supposedly now going to be AL Central champs or something.
Isaac Paredes, I think, is another one. I think he and Willie Castro, I saw them kind of chatting one time at I think it was the Trop. And I was like, I wonder if they're reminiscing over the old Tigers days. Probably not. Couple of minor league signings, guys, moving on from the Twins. David Banuelos, the catcher, is with the Orioles on a minor league deal. Hernan Perez had a nice year at St. Paul as a utility man last year. He's going to the Reds. And then former Twins prospect Nick Birdie, who was a high draft pick, threw the crap out of the ball. He's signed a minor league deal with the Yankees. We'll see what happens there. A couple other notes of interest. Blue Jays showing increased interest in Michael A. Taylor. I think he's going to get enough money that he's not going to need to come back. One I want to go to, though, is Red Sox showing increased strong interest in bringing back James Paxton. As I recall, you had kind of listed James Paxton as someone on your target list. I think the conventional wisdom is that the Twins should sign a guy in that neighborhood, but still make a trade for someone who probably starts like your second or third playoff game. I still think you got to go big, but I think if you get like a Paxton or a Hyunjin Ryu, a Kenta Maeda level pitcher, present day, not Kenta 2020 when he finishes second for the Cy Young, but I do think they need to shoot for bookends, a higher end pitcher, and then another depth starter. Adrian Hauser getting traded from the Brewers was kind of a guy I thought would make some sense. But if not Paxton, like where are you still looking at for the Twins to find that number 4, number 5 starter?
I'm sure Jordan Montgomery is too much to ask. But they lost. Sonny Gray was one of the better pitchers in the American League last year. This is not the small departure. It's not unexpected either. But I think you're right about aiming a little higher. They don't seem to be in the Snell Derby. I don't know that I would be either, but
I don't think anybody is right now.
I mean, it's kind of a sleepy time for Snell.
Yeah,
but Snell is he's not. It's not real clear exactly how. Maybe the Giants. I don't know. The Giants are probably going to be motivated to do something with
he does feel like a San Francisco Giant, especially.
It does. It's still that West Coast kind of thing.
Coming off the Padres.
But to answer your question about who, my short answer right now is I don't know, but I agree absolutely with your point that it should be a guy that you're okay. We can start this guy in a playoff series, kind of a dude, because Sonny is not. It's not small potatoes. I don't know that we can say Paddock is for sure going to be that guy at the end of October yet. So
it'd be cool if he was.
It would be cool. But I wouldn't like hang all my eggs in that basket either. So I agree that depth and not just filler kind of depth is of big importance. So we're going to see what kind of trades that they can cook up. Supposedly that's their method, their modus operandi this offseason. So we'll see what they're willing to give up and what the market is. But I would like it to be somebody in that 2-3 starter range rather than just a 4 or 5.
Well, and ideally your first starters out of the chute, if you need somebody, are Louis Varland if he goes back to starting, Simeon Woods, Richardson, guys that they've had some big league experience, but you're not going to hand them a starter's workload in 150 innings, whatever a starter workload is considered now. It probably is 130, 140 nowadays. Couple other things to get to here. Let me just make sure. Shelby Miller signing with the Tigers. Any concern there with you? I haven't seen a single signing in the AL Central that has really gotten me all that shook, even though Anthony Recker seems convinced that I think he said the Royals would be in the mix, which, I guess.
In the mix to win the division?
I guess, yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I do like some of the moves that the Royals made. Shelby Miller, you sort of had a feeling watching him come back with the Dodgers last year that, when they picked him up at first, it's like, ooh, I could see him being, in a short reliever kind of a sense. That would be a good move in a playoff series, kind of a.
He just turned 33. Can you believe that?
I mean, he's still he came to us young, so it's just, it is kind of hard to believe, but he's developed. I don't know if he developed a sweeper or a changeup, or he developed a pitch that is really helping him do. He had great stats in limited time with the Dodgers last year, so we'll see how that can continue with the Tigers. I think I like him as a possibility. I'd love just for him, for Jack Flaherty to bounce back. Again, I worry about his shoulder. So we'll see exactly how this all adds up for the Tigers. But if you're the Twins, I think the guys some of the guys that the Tigers have signed seem to be a little bit more of a gamble than the Twins need or should want at this time. So I'm not too worried about them losing these guys, the names that you've mentioned.
Yeah, no question about that. Miller looks like he learned a split with the
splitter. Okay.
Dodgers, I think. So, his Fangraphs page had a spike there. Can't leave the folks without talking about Yamamoto getting 12 years and $325 million from the Dodgers. Dodgers literally spending $1 billion on players in the last 7 to 10 days. I actually made the joke. Some men would rather go spend $1 billion on baseball players than go to therapy. No, not casting aspersions on Magic Johnson or anybody, just playing along with the internet meme. But I don't know. I mean, Josh Reddick said, "I can't believe a guy who's never thrown a pitch in the major leagues got $300 million." And it's like, this is not exactly apples to apples. I mean, if you drop Ichiro at his age, he would have gotten a crazy contract too, because you know that these guys can play. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not really worried about them building a super team, because the super teams don't really seem to work out that often, and they still have so many question marks pitching wise. But I wouldn't want to be the Diamondbacks, Padres. I never want to be the Rockies. So
no, you don't. You don't never want to go full Rocky or even half.
You never go full. You never even go partial Rocky. But anyway, I've stolen your thunder. Yamamoto to the Dodgers. Your thoughts?
Well, you kind of brought up a good point there about how the Dodgers had a bunch of holes and still kind of do. And they really needed to do moves like this. Just getting Ohtani, who's just a hitter this year, as spectacular an acquisition as it is, and transformative as it is. The Dodgers had some serious holes. We saw it last year at the end. That's why they didn't get very far in the playoffs. So the Dodgers have needed to make these moves, and he's not. I mean, it's the biggest number, but it's not the first. Like they've deferred Mookie Betts, and it's not the first deferral on the roster, much less in the league. And Josh Reddick, I'm surprised at some of his opinions. How do I say it nicely? I thought he knew more than that. I thought he was a little smarter about hasn't played in the major leagues. And I know that Nippon.
He played in the same division as Ichiro for a while, didn't he? I mean,
yeah, these guys can play. We know that now. I mean, from top to bottom, the major leagues are better, I guess. Not that it matters, but can you Darvish pitch? Is Ohtani the best player in the game right now as a hitter and a pitcher? Yeah, where'd he come from? So I think the guys in Japan know how to play. And why play? I mean, he's not a player anymore, but why players would bemoan, "Oh, why are you giving a player so much money?" Will you shut up? What are you doing? Who signed you on?
I don't know if you're still technically part of the union after you're done playing, but dude,
aren't you in spirit or philosophy? Yeah. I mean, bad
form.
Like ignorance. It's just on so many levels. It's just, and I'm not one of the people who thinks it's bad for baseball or, they found a loophole. Like I said, Mookie Betts is getting deferred money. Lots of people are getting deferred money. People on other teams are getting deferred money.
Max Scherzer.
Yeah, it's not,
Scherzer's got 2 deals with deferred money right now, doesn't he? Because I think he's still deferred.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's baseball's got lots of problems. There's some financial issues, and there should be more equitable revenue sharing, and the teams that get revenue sharing now should spend the money that they already get, but they don't spend. Right. Bob Nutting, and the Pirates. So it is what has happened with these transactions is not what is wrong with baseball. There's lots of other things that are wrong. This is not one of them. I can't wait for him to pitch. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun, and I am looking forward to that. Well, Dave, I don't know when we're going to speak again, not because, you're going off on a safari or anything, but it's a holiday season. But just thanks for, coming back, feeling good. We got some fun stuff coming up here. I suspect at some point you may be willing to reveal your Hall of Fame ballot, whether it's in written word or on the show here. But yeah, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up here as we careen towards the new year. And it's good to have you with for the ride.
I got to turn that thing in a week from today or tomorrow. So sometime next week, let's do a show where I show you who I vote for and I tell you a little bit about why.
Well, so here's what you don't want to do. I had someone come in. I'll end the show on this story. I ran a UPS store for a few years, and someone came in, and I want to say it was like April 18th or something. And they said, "How do you backdate mail?" I was like, you don't. You don't.
We're not in the mob, sir.
No. So, yeah, it's like I'm not trying to get squeezed out here. You know, I'm not doing any of these unethical things. So I don't know if their taxes relate or what, but yeah, you got to get that in. Got to get that postmark, Dave.
No, I can't do that. I can't. There's no rolling back the odometer. I can't do it.
I thought if you drove backwards like Ferris Bueller. Anyway, belaboring the point,
didn't work.
Today's show is over. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy holidays to you and yours. And we'll be back real soon. Thanks for joining Locked On Twins, and we'll see you tomorrow night.